It's been a little bit, hasn't it? So, personal updates at the end of the video. I've gotten... This is not a happy-go-lucky, fun-time video, so content warning up front for death and sadness. I've gotten witness apologists commenting on videos about how, Jehovah's a God of love, a God of perfect justice and perfect love, and, it's fine that he is going to kill lots of babies in Armageddon because, my innocent child, in my other videos, as you can see, adorable little squishy little babies. They deserve to die horrifically because I don't believe in Toni Morris and his buddies. I think that they are ridiculous caricatures, and the things they say don't make sense. And so therefore, I deserve death, and my kids deserve death. And this is an abstract idea, and they'll make excuses and say like, oh, well, you'll be killed not by God, but by the other bad people, and then God will just kill the really bad people himself. So you'll die during the Great Tribulation, and then only the evil people will be left, as if that's somehow some consolation. So, we can imagine what would it be like at Armageddon? Well, it's going to be the worst thing to ever happen, according to Jesus, I guess, because he says that, the worst thing before or since, and that if it wasn't cut short, no flesh would save, whatever. I don't care. It's supposed to be the worst thing that would ever happen. So, some horrifying things have happened, so I want to... I was listening to Dan Carlin's excellent podcast, Hardcore History, which I highly recommend. You should listen to it. If you haven't, great stuff. And he read a quote from survivors of the atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I'm just going to read to you a clip. And we will resume talking after it. So, here's me. And the emotion is genuine, because I was putting when you're listening to this, I want you to do the same thing that I did, and put yourself in the position of the woman that is telling the story. This is you. This is your kids. Put yourself in this situation and really imagine what it's like to be there. So I do break down and cry because it made me upset. Because it's just, if you really put yourself in this situation, it is utterly heartbreaking. So this is not an act. This is real emotion. I cried in my car recording the audio for this. So enjoy, probably not the right word, but here we go. Hibakusha, Survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, page 141. A Voice from the Flames. Shige Hiratsuka. We were a family of 4 that morning of August 6, 1945. It was a little past 8 o'clock. Breakfast was just over and my husband was glancing through the newspaper while I cleared up after the meal. Our 2 children were playing nearby. Just then a brilliant flash, like lightning, appeared and the thunderous roar of an explosion reverberated around us. In a moment, our house collapsed and we found ourselves buried in its rubble. As my husband and I worked frantically to free ourselves, I heard a cry for help from the woman next door. I called back to her. If we get out before you, we'll come and help you. When we did finally pull ourselves free, we saw the city of Hiroshima in ruins around us. Nowhere was a building left intact, and in several places tongues of fire had begun to lick outward. Suddenly panic-stricken and completely forgetting about our neighbor, I began to search for my children. As I was calling their names, a voice emerged from a spot 2 or 3 meters away. "Help, Mommy, help!" It was my 6-year-old Kazuko. Hurrying to the spot, I found her tightly wedged from the chest down by fallen plaster and timber. I screamed to my husband to come quickly and do something. However, he could hardly move, being badly bruised. He, however, could hardly move, being badly bruised and bleeding from the shoulder. He had no strength left. It was all he could do to walk. My daughter kept calling to me, "It hurts, Mommy. My legs hurt. I can't move. Hurry and get me out." I tugged her but could not move her. No matter how desperately I tried, I just could not free her. The fires were moving closer and closer. We would not be able to stay there much longer. Finally, when the flames began to lap around us, we were stirred into moving, no longer able to stand the intense heat. I realized I was afraid to die. I could not let myself be burned alive. Tears streaming from my eyes, I placed my hands together as if in prayer and asked my daughter to forgive me. "Kazu, I am a bad mother to you, but please forgive me. You don't want to die either, I know. Mommy isn't brave enough to stay here and die with you. I'm afraid of the fire, Kazu. Forgive me. Forgive me." Then I chose an area that seemed to be safe from fire and fled toward it, pulling my husband along by the hand. I kept looking back at the ruins of our house as if I were being dragged by the hair from behind. There had been no time to rescue our other child either. In my flight, I stepped on or stumbled over corpses countless times without knowing what they were. Even when I realized I was laying on a mutilated body, I could feel no revulsion, only pity. Eventually, we reached the riverbank. My throat raw and my mouth parched. I bent down to take some water from the stream. Bodies were floating past on the current, so many that I had to push them aside with my hands to find space enough to take water into my cupped hands. But no sooner had I pushed aside one corpse than another took its place. All were badly burned and swollen. When I finished drinking, I remained staring vacantly at the bodies, and then I suddenly became sick to my stomach and began to vomit a yellow, bubbly liquid. I had no reserves or energy or spirit left. I did not even want to cry. The sound of someone screaming finally made me look up. A woman, almost delirious, was searching the corpses one by one for members of her family. Most of the corpses were covered with hideous burns, and the intestines of some were spilling out. Had those people also rushed desperately to the spot and reached the end of their strength, collapsed, and died here? Sitting there alive with my children dead in the fire, I cursed the war and what it could do to people. All I wanted was somewhere where war was not. The sky darkened and a heavy black rain began to fall, pounding the earth. It did not last long. We spent the night there on the riverbank, a long night during which we did not sleep. I cried loudly most of the time, uttering a stream of apologies to my dead children. "I'm sorry, Kazu. Forgive Mommy. I was cruel to leave you. It tortured me. You must have suffered so." My husband said absolutely nothing, but tears streamed down his cheeks. Sleepless and bitten by insects, we endured the long night. At 9 o'clock the next morning, a group of relief workers came. They loaded the survivors onto a truck and took us to a small village some kilometers from Hiroshima. We were housed in a school gymnasium. The scene was hellish. There were people with ghastly wounds, burned people, people already dead in the midsummer heat. Maggots were breeding in their burned flesh of the dead. From every direction rose the moans of the injured, asking for relief, begging for water. A child, not knowing its mother had died, crawled up to her and lay limply against her to suck from a breast that must have been dried. I could not cry. I could only wonder abstractly how much longer such a war could continue. While I was lost in my thoughts, people continued to die. And we're back. So that was rough for me. That was very upsetting. So, all-knowing, all-loving, all-just Jehovah is not going to Thanos snap us away. No. The illustrations, as I put during the reading, I assume I did, future editing me, people are running in terror. People are having buildings collapsed on them. They are falling into holes. They are being hit with fireballs. They are trying to shield their children. Now, this is horrific. This was 2 pages of this book that I read. 2 pages. of one instance in human history, and it is deeply upsetting. And God is going to do far worse to an unimaginable scale of people. 99.9% of the human race will not survive Armageddon, according to the Watchtower Society. 8 billion people will die in the most horrific slaughter imaginable from, again, your all-loving, all-forgiving, all-just God. This is a tiny preview, a tiny sampling of the horrific Holocaust that he has in store for the human race, because he loves us so very much. Now, I ask again after reading that, do I deserve that? Do my children deserve to that? I'm sorry that you're trapped under the burning rubble. I'm not brave enough to stay here as the fire creeps towards us. I'm sorry I have to leave you to die because I didn't believe that Stephen Lett and his ridiculous face was an avatar of God. I'm sorry I didn't believe drunk Toni Morris was a spokesman for God. I'm sorry I didn't believe the absolute nonsensical doctrine that they put out that is easily debunked with history and science and common sense logic. I'm sorry I didn't believe, so I deserve to die, and so do you. I'm going to run for my life and then die over there. Loving, wonderful. You have a wonderful, loving God. That you really got a great one there. He's chef's kiss, just, he's just wonderful. I wouldn't mind singing his praises for all eternity, because if I don't, he's going to do this to me. He's going to cook me. So this isn't debunking witness. This isn't debunking witness doctrine, but it is questioning the premise that they have. If 99.9% of the human race is going to be killed, and not nicely, because it talks about how they will, they have graphic illustrations, and they'll talk about how they'll try to hide, and their bones will litter the ground, and even the vultures, the birds of the heaven, and the beasts of the field won't be able to eat all of their corpses. And Garrett Loesch talks about how teams of surviving witnesses will need to bury the corpses for who knows how long. This is not going to be nice. It is going to be horrific. Just think about that. Just try and mesh. I want you, if you are a believing witness, just revel in this thought. Revel in this pain and this cognitive dissonance, and ask yourself, does this make sense? Is this kind? Is this loving? Is this just? Do all of the babies deserve to die? Do all of the unborn children, all of the toddlers, all of the infants, all of them deserve to die like this woman's children did in the nuclear attacks against Japan? And worse. Because hers isn't the worst story, it's just a really horrific one. So think about that, I guess. Just really, think about, is that fair? Is that loving? Is that just? Does that make any sort of sense from a loving God? Or maybe the witness is wrong. That's the first step. The second step is, does this make sense from a God at all? Not one I'd want to worship. And the reason I don't believe in God is not because this is horrific. I don't believe in God for less emotional reasons, but this is a good reason to start questioning his existence, because gross. If he did exist, still wouldn't serve him. No, screw that. I'm going to stand with the other heathens, and you can come for me, because I'm not going to bow down to someone who threatens me with this sort of outcome. Forget that. You're not worthy of worship. If you did exist, which 100% don't exist, Yahweh doesn't exist. But even if he did, I ain't serving him. I ain't serving this God. That's a monster. He can will go down fighting. Me and the rest of the atheists and the gays and Buddhists, anyone who's not a witness, so we got a broad swath of humanity to face our demise together. So I guess I'll be in good company. So just think about that. It's gross. It's horrible, and the witness apologists own this. At least the ones that comment on me. They're like, yeah, all the babies are going to die, and it's your fault, and it's sad, but they are going to die. But the less hardline and less absurd witnesses might have a harder time meshing that, because this is not a loving God. This is not fair or just. Make them own it. Ask them about this. Just read this quote and be like, what, are you fine with this? Look at these illustrations in your own publications. Are you fine with this? This happening 1 billion times over. 8 billion times over. A toll of pain and death and destruction, the likes of which the world has never seen. Couldn't have seen. There wasn't enough people. God's been waiting for a ripe harvest of billions of people, of millions of unborn children and infants that cannot even say a word and are somehow worthy of death. So that's neat. And again, for you theists out there, God did this to Jericho, supposedly. God did this during the flood. He subjected those people that he said, annihilate them down to the last one. Jericho, you're supposed to even kill the livestock, kill everything that breathes, because I'm loving and just. Kill the donkeys, because the donkeys are wicked, I guess. I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. Just imagine the Israelites going door to door with their, the machete, a spear, a pointy stick. Pointy stick, big knife, going door to door and stabbing everyone to death, chopping them to death, killing the babies. That one scripture, happy is the person who dashes the babies' heads on the rocks. That's what the instruments of the loving God did to these people. Supposedly didn't happen. The conquest of Canaan didn't happen. But during this conquest, that's what they did. They slaughtered babies by hand, the old-fashioned way, one at a time, or burned them to death in their homes. This is what that loving God has done throughout the Old Testament and will do again in the future, supposedly. He won't, because he's not real. But it's not very loving, is it? It's not very loving when you take the abstraction out of it. Those wicked people will have to face the consequences for their sins, as they like to put it, is very different. It hits very emotionally different from they will weep and cry as their homes collapse, burning on their children. They will hear the wailing pleas of their children asking for help, and help will not come because God has deemed those children worthy of death. And because he loves you. Good job, God. Neat. Glad that was the best solution you could come up with. Freaking Marvel with the Thanos snap is much nicer. Thanos is infinitely preferable to Jehovah. I've said it before, and other witnesses have said before. He only kills 50% of the human population, not 99.9% of it, and he does it in a relatively painless way. Thanos is the supervillain in Marvel, is infinitely better than Jehovah. So that's my ramble. Personal things. So I commented and other things, got kind of burned out, got kind of sad, dealing with some personal stuff. Shaved. It's freaking 90-something degrees in the south. It's rough. I'm doing okay-ish. As you can see by my happy-go-lucky demeanor, I am in a great spot. But we'll see. You gotta work through it. It's nothing new, and I don't really want to go into it. right now. Maybe in a future video. I don't know. Dealing with stuff, dealing with life. It's rough. It's rough. It's rough dealing with things that are the result of a cult, and it's rough dealing with things without your family, without your friends, without your parents, because you can't talk to them. Shunning is an evil thing. It is a wicked, painful, horrible tool, and it hurts people. And even when it's not actively hurting people, it prevents those people from getting help. So, yay. Ugh. Anyone who says disfellowshipping is a loving arrangement, screw them. Screw the governing body for gleefully looking forward to this slaughter of the human race that they imagine will happen and that they will get to partake in. Tony Morris can't wait to go up into heaven and shoot fireballs at the people who think he's a fat, stupid cult leader that he is. He can't wait to snuff them out like that little match. I won't edit that in because I'm too lazy to go and find it, but you've seen it. Screw them. Ugh. They make me sick. They're so emotionally callous. So don't you be callous. Read some things about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Watch Grave for Fireflies. Don't. I mean, if you don't want to have your week ruined. Story about 2 little Japanese kids in the fire bombings of Japan by the U.S. Air Force during World War II. Absolutely, emotionally devastating. Just connect with that and imagine that that's what's going to happen from your loving God. Doesn't make so much sense anymore, does it? It's kind of almost like it's an absolute contradiction of the idea of a loving God that he's going to murder everyone. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. Here's some more content for you. Don't expect it so rapidly, but I guess I will be putting stuff out occasionally. I appreciate all of the very nice comments and emails and messages from people wondering if I'm okay. Wasn't, or I'm not, hopefully will be. I'll make it. I'm not, I'm trying to think of how to put it that won't get me flagged. I am not thinking of ending my own life. It is not that bad. I am not in any physical danger. I am mentally and emotionally not great, but okay. So, anyway, that was a downer. Woofy doofy. I would love to end this on a light note, but I really don't have one. Other than the fact that the absurdity of the governing body looking forward to this brutal slaughter is just kind of funny. Because we love you very much, but we don't give a flying fuck about anyone who isn't baptized. We look forward to burning them all to death. Stephen Lett. They're such monsters. They're such absolute narcissists. Ugh. I wish I could cross my eyes, but I can't, and all the people who helpfully commented and follow your fingertip. Can't do it. I wish I could cross my eyes. Imagine that I'm crossing my eyes. They're so stupid, and I deeply dislike them. They make me ugh. Ugh. Hopefully that lightened the mood a little bit. So, thank you for watching to the end. Thank you for all the people that checked in on me. Not that you were obligated to. No one is obligated to. It was just a very nice gesture that I did appreciate. So, see you again soon, I guess. Or later, sooner or later. I hope that you have a good day. I hope that this didn't bring you down too much, because remember, I'll try and end on not a happy note, but a positive note. things that happen in war are horrific. Horrific things happen all over the world, but we can try and make it better. We can put pressure on our leaders. We can put pressure on companies that make munitions and implements of war that cause these sort of things to not do that. We can try and push for a more peaceful, equitable, fair world. And there hasn't been a major, hasn't been a world war since, World War II. Conflicts still happen, but we can try and make the world a better place. We can try and prevent these sort of horrific things from happening again. And we can try and be fair and kind and loving and helpful to people who are in situations like this, natural disasters, man-made disasters, refugee crises. We can make the world a better place. We are not helpless. As a collective, we are not helpless. We can affect change. We can make it better. So while it's easy to dwell in pits of despair over the big problems that we ourselves are powerless to stop, we're not powerless together. We can do things if we work together. So if you're feeling down, find a worthy charity, donate some money to them. There's services that rate charities based on how effective your dollar is. Volunteer for one. Go help at a soup kitchen. It's not gonna, help, people on the other side of the world, but you can help people locally. If we all work together, if we are all doing this worldwide, we can make things better. We can make things better for the future. And now, we can't stop horrific things from happening, but we can help alleviate things now, and we can try and help to build a world that is better than in the past, safer, less horrific than reading about people being burned alive after a nuclear blast. Let's not do that. Let's try and avoid a future where nuclear wars happen. That'd be nice. We can make things better. We can improve things. We can try to prevent horrific things from happening. So let's do that. We don't have to wallow in powerlessness because we're not powerless. Try and be positive. Positivity, apathy, and sadness lead to inaction, which lead to these sorts of things happening. So let's not let that overtake us. Let's try and focus on what we can do and how we can, leave the world a little bit better than we found it. Because that is possible. The witnesses and people like that try to program that into you that it is not possible, but they're wrong. They're liars and they're stupid. They want that fear and that apathy to take hold in you because they tell you, the only solution to these horrific things that weigh so heavily on your heart. That pain, that fear, that injustice, they say they have the only answer, and they're liars. They are wrong. You can make things better. So, positive note, let's work together. Let's work together to make things a little bit better and be nice to each other. That's it. I don't want anyone to burn to death. The witnesses want me to burn or think that I deserve to burn. Maybe not want, but think I am deserving of that, which is gross. I don't want them to suffer. I don't want anyone to suffer. So, on that semi-call to action, I guess, of be nice in a vague way, I will leave you. That was a little bit longer, but it's been a while. So maybe you're starved for lack of this. Maybe the lack of beard will leave you wanting more. Don't know. But I am poofier, so the hair migrated north for the summer. I appreciate you. I am having, despite that 2 pages making me cry quite a bit, I am having a good day. Sadness in my eyes makes me a liar, but I am having a good day. Honestly, I'm not lying to you. I am having a good day, and I hope that you are too. I truly deeply hope that you are having a good day, and I hope that that didn't get you down. I tried to, spice a little bit of positivity in there in the end to not be a complete downer. I really do hope that you're having a good day. I do hope that you have a hopeful outlook, a positive outlook, and can see a path forward, because it's hard. It's hard when a multi-billion-dollar publishing company has poured all of its efforts into trying to rob you of that hope. All but one outlet, them. They are them, and their interpretation is the only hope that they want you to see. So it's hard to get yourself out of that mindset. It's hard to see hope. It's hard to feel hopeful for the future. It's hard to feel not apathetic. But it is possible, and with work you can get there. And it feels good. It feels good to see options, to feel relevant, to feel like you can matter, that you can be a positive force for change. Because you can be. Anybody can. We can all work together and we can take care of each other. That's why we're here. That's why the human race is where it's at. That's why we have this big dumb industrial space, because people have cared. People have built. We have stood on the shoulders of giants that have come before us. That one adage of countries grow great when men plant trees that they know that they will never sit under the shade. Sit under the shade of? Boy, I butchered that one. You get the point. Human race is here because we have done that. We have successfully looked out for our offspring. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we're here. We have a space station. We have probes on comets. We have nuclear reactors. We have learned and grown as a species. So don't be hopeless. We can do more. We will do more. We will get better. We will learn and we will grow. Boy, that was a long ramble. I hope that wasn't overly long. So I will finally go. I will bid you adieu until the next time. So I hope I'm leaving you on a semi-positive note. I hope that you are feeling good. I'll see you next time.